Hello and welcome to the Auto Guide Show. This week, Kyle drives two fancy but very different cars. Of course, we have a lot of V8 news, and we need some tributes. But first, a word from our sponsor. Picture this. You're halfway through a DIY car fix, tools scattered everywhere, and boom, you realize you're missing a part. It's okay, because you know whatever it is, it's on eBay. They've got everything: brakes, headlights, cold air intakes, whatever you need, and it's guaranteed to fit, which means no more crossing your fingers and hoping you ordered the right thing. All the parts you need, at the prices you'll love, guaranteed fit every time. eBay, things people love. So, kicking things off is a car you drove, well, it looks like a while ago. I mean, it's been a cold spring, but that's a lot of snow.
It was a while ago, but also, yeah, we did have snow for a long time. It was the 2025 Genesis GV80 Coupe, which is, well, Genesis doing the latest thing it needs to do to follow the Germans, and that means a less useful utility vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, I drove this, we talked last year.
Yeah.
Podcast a while ago for a long time. So this is maybe one of the first vehicles that we both have extensive time in. So how did you find it drove?
Well, you drove the
regular one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I drove the Coupe after. Right.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I think mostly it's good in the sense that it is slightly sportier, and that's the goal with something this shape, right? Is to be a little sportier. It also has the supercharged V6 engine, which gives you not a whole lot more power. It's something like 34 more horsepower and 20 pound-feet or something. That engine's good, but it's so good that I don't really understand what the point is of keeping the regular V6 in there. The four-cylinder's gone from the Coupe, too. It's just the V6s. But they're so similar, and the price cap is pretty substantial. It's like a $5,000 difference, where I don't understand, because if you want power, you're going to go with the Germans and get a V8. So it just feels like a weird halfway kind of spot right now, where the GV80 Coupe, we know Magma is coming as a performance sub-brand, and we have pretty high hopes because Hyundai does a good job with its performance stuff. Same with Kia. So Genesis should too. They're going to Le Mans now. But this isn't there yet. It just doesn't feel quite special enough in my mind. And it's also not that great of a deal. It's still cheaper than a V8 X5 or GLE Coupe. X6. But again, you're not getting the power, the prestige, because look, as much as we like Genesis, it's still got an uphill battle in terms of brand recognition. I feel like you should just stick with the regular SUV. It's basically the same speed. It's more comfortable and it's more useful.
So yeah, like everything you said is sort of what I concluded about the regular one before versus the X5 and the GLE. It's really good against the low end ones of those vehicles, like the 6 cylinders, because that's what it competes against. But it has no higher version, so it's tough because you almost need like the V8 to sell the V6 because people, or inline 6, I guess, but because people want to associate it with it. Whereas if you just do head to head with this in an X5, what is it, 40i now, I guess? xDrive 40i?
Yeah, the 6 cylinder, yeah.
Yeah, I guess it'd be X640. It matches up pretty good, but that's sort of your ceiling. So, as we've said before, Magma hopefully and Le Mans produce some sort of V8 or something, or crazy powerful hybrid with the V6. Who knows? Something's got to come.
Yeah. So also, I just want to point out, it sounds like I'm being pretty harsh on this. It does ride really nicely. It finds a good balance between sport and comfort. And also the interior is fantastic because Genesis interiors are all fantastic. Like this had the orange and blue, which sounds like it would be a lot, but it's actually it's really great. So yeah, like it. Just wish it went a little further.
So moving on, some big news that happened, well, today for us, but a couple days ago when the podcast goes live.
Yes.
Is Ford's expanding the Lobo brand, and they've made the F-150 Lobo with the V8, which is a surprise, not one of the big Turbo 6s.
Yeah. It's it's weird. I was just on a Ford event, which maybe we'll talk about in a bit. But the thing for me about this is that it's basically just a visual package, whereas the Maverick Lobo has a few choice upgrades. It's weirdly not that different from a Tremor. It's just tuned differently. But yeah, this is just an STX with a 10-piece body kit, which is fine. Oh, and a suspension lowering in the back, and that's fine.
The back went down like 3 inches, but the front stays the same.
Well,
like
I guess it's because they don't expect people to tow as often with this, and so it's like, well, normally like there's such an extreme rake on a truck, but I mean, it looks cool. I don't. So this hasn't been confirmed, but I'm just throwing it out here. You know the FP 700 Whipple supercharger pack that goes on the F-150 V8? There's no reason it wouldn't fit on this. It hasn't technically been confirmed for this model year and 2026, but it's the exact same truck as before, and it worked on the V8s then. So we could have a spiritual successor to the original Lightning.
I'll take you one further. Is Raptor R engine? Just drop it in here, and you have the Lobo R.
Yeah, and then but then you'd actually have to throw a ton. Well, I guess you probably should throw some other upgrades at a 700 horsepower supercharged thing, no matter what.
Yeah, brakes and stuff. But I mean, if you're going R, you're going to already charge them $30,000 more, so you can put those bits on. Yeah, I assume the tow rating and payload will be lower on this. I also assume the exhaust might be a bit different on this. Well, at least different from regular, maybe like the trim or something, so it's a little more V8 growly, because I assume that's why they've put it in this truck, for the image and sound.
Yeah, and it has the dual pipes. I think it looks cool, right? Like I like street trucks. We kind of moved away from them for a while, so I wonder if any of the other truck brands are going to start doing something like this again. Like, it's sort of like Ford leads the way. Look, like we can all just admit it, right? When Ford did the Lightning, Ram countered with the SRT, and Chevy had an SS, I think, for a while. Then it went all off-road high speed, right, with Raptor, and then sure enough, we got other stuff like that. So, yeah.
I can't wait for Dodge's response, because that's what usually happens. Ford does something, and Dodge's like, "Oh yeah, well, here's a 700 horsepower TRX. Oh, here's a Viper V10 in our engine." So yeah, maybe the Hellcat engine lives on and gets back into a Ram, but on a street truck. That'd be awesome.
The fastest drag racing truck sounds like a thing that Ram would do.
Put the Demon 170 engine in there, the one that's like over 1,000 horsepower on E85.
Yeah.
All right, well, moving on, so we don't take up too much time. You drove a little luxury car, the 240i xDrive, right?
Yes. Yeah, M240i xDrive.
Yes.
A lot of letters. So BMW's tiniest coupe, tiniest car in Canada, because we actually don't get the 2 Series Grand Coupe anymore. Only the US does. Yeah. Oh no! Would you like a Mazda 3 for more money and less good looking?
We already get the CLA. We're good.
Yeah. So this was one where I actually had to put a fair amount of miles on this just because of what the week looked like, and it's all-wheel drive, because in Canada you can't even get the rear drive 240. And you know what? It's not the sharpest vehicle, especially for that price, right? Like you're talking well-equipped Mustang GT or a Nissan Z or a Toyota Supra. Like all of those are more focused. This is as heavy as the Mustang, even though it's much smaller. But in terms of an all-rounder, I think this is kind of unique in the market. It's small, and its looks maybe aren't the most elegant. That's the best way I can put that.
Better than its sportier version.
Yeah. So I think the interesting thing with this is, you could get a 4 Series for not much more, and it's basically the same at this point in terms of how they perform. It's just that this is a smaller, more compact package, right? It's like BMW is giving people the option. Do they want a more graceful, long-form coupe, or more of a tightly wound little bulldog of one? That works really great as an all-rounder. And while the rear seats are tight, they're not as bad as you might think given the size of the car, and they're pretty comfortable once you're in them. Getting in there is a little tough because just the size of the door openings. But yeah, it's weirdly charming.
I like how you use Bulldog as a comparison because it's about as dense and robust, let's say, as a Bulldog.
Yeah, Bulldog makes sense.
So moving on to a different V8 story. So it started pretty much Friday, maybe Thursday night, that the rumors started coming out. Well, not rumors, people saw it, but Chevrolet and GM are at the Nurburgring, which makes sense. And they're supposedly in Europe for many weeks. Le Mans is, well, when you hear this, Le Mans has happened, but they're probably there for that too, because Cadillac won to qualify. Let's hope they win. So they have a ton of different Corvettes running around the ring. And one is a Z06, one is a Z01, and then there's two that don't really look quite like either. It looks like a Z06, but with ZR1 ducting and E-Ray-ish radiators up front. So the rumor is it's this, everyone's been calling it the Zora, the next step above ZR1, which basically what it's always sounded like, and with the radiators and stuff, it's going to be the ZR1 with probably some form of the E-Rays motor up front, which totally makes sense because you have 1,000 and something horsepower right now, which, you know, professional in the right conditions can put down, but I am not putting that down on the street. So why not give it whatever 100, 150, 200, whatever they're going to put the motor at. I can't remember what it is in the E-Ray, actually.
It's like 200 horsepower.
Yeah, because the V8 I think is actually a little lower, but yeah. So anyway, you put that up front, and now you got all the traction out of the corners and initial thrust in the world. So why are they the Nurburgring? Well, they're probably shaking down this Super Vet that won't be called Zora, but there's also obviously they want to take out the GTD Mustang, right? Because it's twice now improved its time of fastest American car around the ring. So why are all three there if they're tuning the new one? Well, my personal theory, this is complete speculation, but the new car is going to destroy it because it's got way more power, it's way lighter, and it's all-wheel drive. So, like, you know, it's like I don't know how it can't beat it, but I think they also want to beat it with the ZR1, which it still should because you're still talking way more power and a lighter car.
Yeah, and basically the same downforce, let's be honest, with the Extreme Aero pack.
Yeah, but I think they've brought the Z06 as well to see, hey, I wonder if this could also beat it. Because you imagine if Chevy could be like, hey, we got 3 different Corvettes that are all sub 650 at the Nürburgring or something. Like, I think...
Does that matter to Corvette buyers?
No, well, it does, I think. I think like Tesla zoomed 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. No one's ever going to use this ability, but you're sitting around trying to impress the other car owner friends, whatever. Like, all these cars are about numbers and impressing people. No one's taking these...
No, I know, but I always think about the fact that this Corvette is as long behind the passenger compartment as it is because it needs to fit golf clubs. And so I'm always like, does it matter to them that they're like, oh, there's a hybrid one now that shaved a couple of seconds?
I mean, see the guy roll into the country club in this and the Corvette, and be like, well, destroys your Turbo S and your GT3 and your Ferrari this and your Lamborghini that. Like, yeah, I think it's pure marketing, but I also think it's just, I mean, we talked about it on a comparison that's coming up in a couple of weeks. Ford versus Chevy, it's a lifetime feud. So Chevy can not only like stick it to Ford, but stick it 2-3 times. I think
I would assume that at least 2 of the 3 of those would beat the GTD.
They should.
My hot take is, I mean, obviously we don't know what this unconfirmed even quicker model is, which, as an aside, don't we find it funny that performance cars have also dealt with inflation? It used to be like a Corvette was fine, and then you'd like get a Z06, and then it's like, then the ZR1 is back, ZR1. And like M3. Now an M3 isn't good enough. Now we have an M3 CS. Anyway, if this new Super Vet has the all-wheel drive system and the hybrid, I'm not sure if it would be faster than the ZR1. Like, maybe, but I mean, it's not like the E-Ray is faster than the Z06. And I know that's not an apples to apples comparison, but I just wonder if maybe the extra weight wouldn't actually help it that much. It might on the lower speed corners, just, you know, shooting out, but otherwise, I wonder if maybe it loses. I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if it would be much of an improvement.
Yeah, I know. I get what you're saying. I mean, like I said, the E-Ray and Z06 you can't compare because they're very different in many ways. But the E-Ray is not much heavier, like 100 pounds. Like it's very light increase. Like it's not you're putting a 400-pound hybrid system in there, and it like was obviously done on purpose. But I think because it has so much power, not just low speed corners. I think there's some medium speed corners that if you're not careful, you could probably light the tires up in the 0-1. Now the high speed, no, because like you said, it's got all the downforce in the world. But yeah, I think on a track like the Nurburgring that has so many tight, crappy. I mean, crappy in the sense of sometimes the pavement materials that you could use that extra traction. But yeah, I think they have to have it go faster because otherwise people are not going to want to pay the premium. But I really think they're there to try to set at least 2, maybe 3 records.
To that point about it having to be faster because it costs more, not necessarily. A 911 Turbo isn't quicker around a racetrack than a GT3, but it does cost more. So some people just want the top thing, right? If Chevy's like, here's a 1250 horsepower Corvette, people will be like, yes, sign me up.
1500, and then next week or next year it'll be 1500 horsepower though. Just like you said, keep inflating it as it goes up.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. No, I mean, I think you're right, but because it goes all-wheel drive, yeah. I mean, the GT3 to Turbo S, yeah, like I guess the Turbo S is usually quicker around a track, but maybe not the RS. Yeah. Not compared to the RS.
Yeah, I mean, in a straight line, it's got a big advantage. Anyway,
so yeah, it'll be interesting, but I foresee at least 2 and potentially 3. I mean, the third one will be tough because you are down on power and downforce. You're way down on weight too, but you never know. But
3 sub-7s.
Yeah, everyone will be looking for these numbers when it comes out. Oh, and just as we're talking right now, Chevy is teasing that they're going to debut this unnamed car. Well, when you listen to this, tomorrow. Next week, they're saying sometime on the 17th, it looks like. So I guess we don't have to wait long to find out the times. I'm certain they're going to announce times on that press release. They're probably going to be like, hey, here's our new car, and it's this crazy fast. And, oh, by the way, our other 2 are this fast as well. So
wicked. Okay, well, I guess we have something to talk about next week's episode. We already know.
We'll see how well we predicted what we thought, and we'll probably be completely wrong. It's like when Colum and I talk F1, and we're never right. So moving on to our last story. It's not really a story. It's just something I had fun with. So we didn't talk about it last week because it was, I don't know, just didn't feel like it was odd. Mustang released a 90s inspired package called the FX, and it's supposed to look like the Fox body from the late 80s, early 90s. And they gave it some white trim and white taillights, and they gave it a cool turquoise paint job and some wheels that none of it really screamed Fox body. The other 2 parked beside each other in a photo, and it's like, okay, they're the same color, and but like the Fox body had like silver wheels, not white, and the 10 dial or 10 circle or however we want to call them, like to me that's the wheel. Or maybe if you go back further, the cool 3-piece triangle wheel. Anyway, it got me thinking, what manufacturer could cash in on this retro? And I don't mean historic, like Mustang and Camaro, and a bunch of manufacturers are, tributing 50 years, and they make a car that looks like the original. The Z did that. Remember the Z that looked like the original?
Yeah.
With the paint. So that's been done for a while, but people of our age that are kind of becoming the money holders or whatever you want to call it, we long for the 80s and 90s. So what other brands could dip into that? So I picked 5. 2 of them are pretty obvious. The first 2 are the Civic Type R and the Tegra Type S. So for both of those, I'm going back to the mid to early 90s, and why not make a tribute to the EK Civic Type R? I know we never had it, but anyone who's going to buy a Civic Type R knows that car. Like that is super famous from video games and just lore and history and whatnot. And then obviously the Integra Type R that we had. And they both came white they could have cool red interiors and white simple wheels. So why not make for each of them a tribute to that? Just an all white car with cool old school white wheels, a full red interior. I know they can, like, those bits kind of exist here and there, but make an actual
the Civic Type R. The Civic Type R already does that.
No, it doesn't give you the white wheels, the cool old school white wheels. And you
Oh,
could
that was the
put
last gen.
yeah, and you could put some like maybe some of the body moldings to mimic more of the old one. Take off the giant rear wing, is what I've also said for the Civic, and put on a little lip one on the top of the roof like the Type R had back then because it's a hatchback. I know it's a 4-door versus a 2-door, but you can integrate that. And then for the Integra, you need to put a big hoop wing on the back if you're going to make it a Type R tribute, because what's a Type R without the hoop, right? It's not a Type R.
Yeah.
So, completely different idea. The Chrysler Pacifica, maybe you could make a tribute to the Town and Country, the OG Town and Countries. Remember the ones from the 80s and 90s? It was sort of the second gen Caravan,
Yeah.
Voyager Magic Wagon, more flesh. Now, I'm not saying put wood paneling on the Pacifica because that would just look terrible. But those vans had the plushest interiors at the time. Like it was a full luxury interior. And I know the Pacifica is like the luxury van, but I mean like go old school 80s, like the big squishy quilted, not quilted, but what do you call it? Like pleated, where you have like the buttons in them. Like just go and all beige and plush panels on the dash and doors, and you can even put like a
call it Corinthian leather.
Exactly. You can double down on it. So that's my third. I'll go through the last two. Cadillac Escalade. It's been around for almost 30 years now. It's not crazy to think. I don't say tribute the first gen because the first gen was literally a Denali. I don't think they had Denali yet. I think it was just a Yukon with the Cadillac crest on the front and nicer seats inside. But the second gen, remember with those kind of square headlights and the big fat slats and the giant Cadillac crest?
It was a statement. Yeah.
Just put the slat grill on and the big old school crest and just call it the whatever 25th, 30th, whatever anniversary number you want to pick. Easy sell. You know the nostalgia with Cadillac. And my absolute last one is my favorite. We talked about the Lobo F-150, and there was a Lobo Maverick. Maybe GM needs to dip into its Cyclone heritage. Now, I know that was an S10, but you have a Canyon. You have a 310 horsepower, 400-something pound-feet of torque engine standard. So, and it's not a 6, but you got a crazy turbo 4. Imagine like slam it down, big fat tires. You could totally make a. You don't have to call it Cyclone. You could call it something else, but
call it Cyclone. Embarrass the Maverick. And then be like, I mean, it would cost a lot more than the Maverick Lobo, but yeah.
Put it's got to be painted black with red trim and those fan blade wheels. Like you can't call it Cyclone unless those pieces are on. But GM will do something like that. They'll go all in, sort of like Ford. So yeah. Those are my ideas.
All right. I sorry, I just want to go back for a second about the Lobo. Can we just talk for a quick second about how the F-150 Lobo, the F-150 is called Lobo in Mexico. So is this the Lobo?
Maybe it's the
Lobo squared?
Loco is crazy, right? So it could be like the Loco Lobo, like the crazy Lobo,
crazy wolf. Like yeah, I don't know. I just find that odd that it's the Lobo.
And it begs the question: when's the Ranger get the Lobo, right?
Yeah,
like it's the one that's missing. I mean, you have a Raptor, you have the engine ready to go. You just slam that down and put on wheels. Actually, the Cyclone, perfect head to head.
There you go. Yeah, no, I think retro stuff, like the Gran Turismo generation, for lack of a better term, loves retro things. I've been saying since the new Integra launched, make an RS. Like the Type R, everyone remember, like, but the RS was also like the affordable, approachable thing. So make it turquoise like that Mustang that kicked this whole thing off. Give it some 6 or 7 spoke wheels, and you have a Integra RS. And I feel like that'd be a fun little special thing for Acura to do, right? Like we saw it with Corolla like a few weeks ago. That FX special FX. The Corolla FX is like a nod to an 80s model. It's like, I don't know, a lot of these brands have a lot of really interesting models in their history from the 80s and 90s, especially the Japanese brands, because it was the bubble. Go nuts with it.
The Toyota one is a great example. I was going to reference it in this post, but I didn't, just because I just have time. But it did it right. Like it really encapsulated the spirit. It's just it picked a very odd model to reference. I don't even know what that car was until I read about it. But I mean, short of going for a full AE86, which people would lose it if you put that on a current Corolla. Imagine a current
And you already
Corolla.
had a GR86 special edition 2 years ago that referenced it, so like you can't really do it again.
Corolla hybrid all-wheel drive with a black hood and black two-tone and white paint. No, not gonna fly. I guess you'd have to put it on the hatch.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's it for this segment. This is the Auto Guide Show brought to you by eBay Motors. We will take a very short break, and I'll be back with Greg to talk some products. And then Greg and I will be interviewing our special guest. I'll have Colum on to talk F1, and then Kyle will be back to wrap things up. Swapping out your tires? There's nothing like it. With eBay, you'll find the feel you're looking for, from smooth highway rides to grip for rough terrain. Get all the tires you need at prices you'll love. eBay, things people love. All right, we have Greg joining us again to talk products for the automotive world. What do we have this week?
All right, so I was going through my garage the other day, and I had to pull up some wires from the ground. Now, you saw before you think, Greg, you're crazy. These are very old phone lines that were already disengaged. I knew they were not hot wires. I needed something to just snip them out and clear them away and be done with it. So I went to my trusty, I have these aviation snippers. This is a similar one that I like. This is a Crescent Wiss 9 3/4 stainless steel, straight combination, pattern snips, really rolls off the tongue. I have a similar pair like this in my garage. I've had them for about 10 years. I believe they were made in the USA. So, no tariffs on these things. And they're just highly useful. For car projects, these are probably not quite what you're looking for, unless you're doing some maybe very light fabricating. But just for metal work around the house, these are outstanding. I use them to refashion my dryer venting, which had this light metal sort of tube going from the basement outside. This was great for that. And they're just highly useful. Sort of like the Swiss Army knife of little cutting snips. So these are obviously a step up from just tin snips, which, I don't know, Mike, you might agree with me. Those are basically like heavy duty scissors. These are a little bit, more of a, for more of your, chores around the house. So I really like these, and they've served me well for about a decade.
Wow. I mean, a lot of things don't last that long anymore, but you're right. Things like these, there's so many tools that are important, but you think, why do you need these for a vehicle? But there's weird applications you'll never think of, and then you'll be sitting there wondering, where are my tin snips? So yeah, and like you said, it's small, compact, easy to have. It's not like it's taking up a ton of space. It's not like you have a torque wrench sitting in your back seat or something. So yeah,
it's a good thing to have in your trunk. You never know when you might need it, whether it's for the car or just whatever type of situation you might have. I think it's good, in your personal vehicle to have like a mini toolbox, along with that first aid kit. Something like this fits right in there. It's super easy to, carry wherever you go. Lightweight, usable, whatever you need.
Yeah, a little trunk kit with jumper cables and a blanket and first aid kit. And people always say to me, why do you have jumper cables in a car that unreliable? It's like, oh, I'm pretty confident with mine, but you never know when you need them to help someone else. So it's always good.
Exactly. Kitty litter.
Yeah.
Do people still say that? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I don't know, because now everyone's on nice winter tires, or they should be. But
that's true.
Yeah, it's not like back in the day where I had a whole kit that I had one of those collapsible little shovels.
Those are good.
And I never had to use it, thankfully, knock on wood. But it was good to have just in case, right? It's rather to have stuff you never use than not have something you need.
Exactly. And of course, our friends at eBay, they have things that you might need at any point. You can find these snips also at like your local hardware store and things like that as well. They're pretty ubiquitous out there. So find what works for you.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week as we continue into summer with some more tools and products for your car.
All right. See you later, Mike.
Picture this. You're in the garage, your favorite room in the house, and you're tuning up your engine with parts you found on eBay. Every piece is just locking perfectly into place. You step back to admire your work, hands covered in grease, and because you're committed to driving that thing further than the odometer can handle, you start to think to yourself, you know what, I could probably also use some new brakes, some shocks and struts, and this baby deserves a new air filter. So you head right back to eBay. You can find any part you need there. It's unreal. From wipers and headlights to cold air intakes, exhaust systems, and even that turbo you've had on your mind, eBay is the stocked garage of your dreams. And you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. Because eBay knows DIY fixes can be major, and mods are always intense, so you need to know that these parts guaranteed to fit every time before you dive in wrench first. And in the off chance you order a part and it doesn't fit, send it back, simple as that. You know what you love more than the car itself is driving it. You're serious when it comes to engine maintenance, and you're locked in when you're headed into a build. And that's exactly why you start with eBay, minor fix or complete overhaul. You want to get your ride back on the road, and you've got eBay Guaranteed Fit. So eBay created My Garage, where all you have to do is add your ride's info and get the exact parts that fit. When you see the green check, you're a click away from that part clicking perfectly into place. So now that you know all that, imagine standing at that open garage door looking at your car you love more than anything, knowing that anything is possible. Whether it's keeping it on the road forever or turning it into something that's never been on the road before. Because with eBay, your garage just got a whole lot bigger. Get all the parts you need at prices you love, guaranteed to fit every time. eBay, things people love. Okay, welcome back to the show. We have Greg here with me to help do this interview with our special guest. If you could just introduce yourself and sort of what got you into cars.
Yeah, so hi there. My name is William Maley. I am currently a data specialist for JATO Dynamics, which is an automotive intelligence firm based in Europe, but I work here in the US. And before that, I was a freelance automotive writer for almost a decade, just doing various bits and things, reviews, news, pretty much whatever you could throw at the wall. I kind of did all of it.
So before we get into that and cars and the cars
Sure.
you've had in history, for those unfamiliar, what sort of data is it that JATO's digging through, or what are you kind of working on?
So I guess I'll kind of start with like this. So my original title, which changed about a year or two ago, was known as a specs researcher, and that's what I do. I'm part of a group of people around the world that look at the specifications and options for cars, and we input it to our system to basically give automakers, suppliers, dealerships the information about new cars. So if you're an automaker, you can use our data to do comparisons with other cars. So if you're interested in like building like a compact crossover, you probably want to know, okay, what does the competition offer at this price? For suppliers, it's just get a better idea of like, okay, what do these cars like? What do they have in terms of equipment? What can we offer them? For dealerships, it's more of like you could take our data and have it to where you could fill out like, hey, this is what this car comes equipped with in terms of standard equipment, options, dimensions, stuff like that.
That'd be very handy to have. As someone who used to work at an OEM, and my first job was sales training, and I was tasked with finding all the details and all the competition, and after triple and quadruple checking things and make sure I got it right. It'd be nice just to have someone already have done that work for me. Yeah. But being in Canada, there are similar systems, but I mean, it's fun if you're really into cars, although it could get tedious.
I mean, I most of my day is staring at screens, looking at various paperworks, and it's like, I have to just step outside. It's like, oh, this is the real world. Oh my God, it's so nice and beautiful.
So you're in a role that has to do with cars, as that's why you're on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, you used to write. So let's go way back to the beginning.
Yep.
Were you born into a car family, or is this something you developed on your own?
I would say partially born into a car family. My dad's side is more of that, not my mom. I jokingly tell people like, yeah, I was baptized in like 570 motor oil, no, my dad was definitely the car person of us before I came along. He had like a late 60s Ford Mustang. And before anybody's like, oh, was it like a V8 or something? No, it's just a V6 with an automatic, but it still was something really cool. I also have a couple cousins that are really, really into Fords, and I kind of describe myself as like the black sheep in a way, because I'm like, I like all these other things. I like all these imports and all these other cars.
That's kind of tough. I know William and I just discovered that we're about 10 miles apart here in Metro Detroit. And as far as the car culture side, it's, especially growing up, maybe like when we did, it was definitely more of a domestic dominated market. And if you're like, hey, I'm really into Miatas or something, people are like,
Right.
well, what's up with that?
Yeah, it's funny because I was originally I was born in mid Michigan, a place called Midland, and that was where like really was like a lot of domestic stuff where you didn't really see a lot of imports. It's only like in the past few years you've been starting to see more and more here, and it's like this weird bubble. So like you leave Detroit and you go out of state, it's like, whoa, there's a lot more cars here. This is amazing.
Yeah, I grew up in a place that we still had a very heavy domestic influence because of the various factories around the Toronto area, but way more imports. Like I remember multiple friends having the same basic 89 Camry growing up. There's one was gray and one was blue and one was beige, and they all came in that square color. And Corollas for miles.
Yeah.
I must just say, a town in the middle of Michigan called Midland, like that can't be more aptly named. Name for a place. So okay, let's fast forward. You're in school, or you're finishing school. Did you get right into the auto industry right away? Did you go buy yourself a sweet first car?
No, I didn't really have a sweet first car. My first car when I turned 16 was my dad's old 2001 Pontiac Grand Prix.
That's a cool car.
Yeah. The GXP maybe, or no?
No, it wasn't that. It wasn't that.
GTP?
A friend's dad actually had a GXP, which I was jealous of.
Yeah.
No, mine was just a regular GT sedan. Had the 3800, which that engine is unkillable. Yeah. I almost killed it once because one time I was at my job and come out one day and my coworker's like, "Hey Bill, there's this puddle under your car." And I look underneath and it's like black. I'm like, we're gonna just leave this here and I'm just gonna get a ride home. Yeah, apparently the oil filter wasn't screwed on too tight. I'm just amazed I did not start the car because I could have done some worse damage. But somehow
did the same thing once. They drove all the way home from an oil change and the cap wasn't even put on.
Yeah.
I got home and they're like, the engine light's on. And I opened the hood and the thing's just steaming out.
Yeah, I've done worse things. My second car was a 95 Volvo A50 Turbo, and I somehow the timing belt got ripped, and I bent a few valves in it. Yeah, that was a fun expense. My parents were actually, when that happened, was supposed to have air conditioning installed in our house. Yeah, that didn't happen for a couple of years after that. Because I traded it all because of that car.
Yeah, some of those old turbos weren't fun to work on, and they weren't overly affordable. My second car, I had a 3800 Camaro, so I'm well versed in that engine. And I used to hang out in a car club that had a lot of Grand Prix, and people would put turbos on those 3800s.
Oh yeah, no, it's crazy
so
what
fast.
You can do with those.
Yeah, I remember we'd go to the drag strip, people would be lighting up the tires half the strip down because they just couldn't get traction. But
yeah.
So, as you said, you were a freelance writer for about a decade. How did that start? Was it something you kind of always aspired to, or just get like a lucky chance like I did?
Basically a lucky chance. Goes back to, I think it was like a year or two into college. I started listening to a podcast called Roundabout, and I got really into it. And I actually got to, friend some of the people on that show. And one of them, I sent this story about when I was doing driver's training about how my first drive was done after a couple of days. I had just had oral surgery on my mouth and I was heavily medicated. Yeah, that's not a good idea to do when you're getting ready to do your first driving example. And the punishment was if you missed a stop sign, you hypothetically killed a family of 4. And I forget what the old record was, but I beat it by, I want to say 10 or 12.
I assume it's on the bad side of it, right? As far as taking people out or proficiency.
Proficiency.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Okay.
Yeah. No. It was part proficiency and also part like driving too. So that was like that was a fun time. I don't know if that record still holds. I hope not. That's like one of those things that's like, yeah, that's kind of how it happened, and that story got me propelled to start writing at various websites because somehow it found the right person and they loved it, and it's like, yeah, I want to bring this guy on.
I'm curious when you look like we were just talking about this off camera, how kind of crazy automotive publishing is right now. Besides AutoGuide, of course, what do you read? What's your take on just like the automotive, media landscape?
It's hard right now. I know a few people who work, who have full-time positions but also are freelance, and it's really hard. I mean, it's tough when you see various outlets I used to read go by the wayside or lay off people, and it's tough. Like, Greg, I know you used to work for Autoblog, and that was like one of my favorite websites to read for quite a long time. And seeing that kind of like lose their staff, it's like, oh man, I really liked the people there. They were great. And it's tough. I mean, it was tough when I was doing freelance 10 years ago because that bubble was starting to shrink. There wasn't as many potential positions for either if you wanted to do this full time or if you wanted to freelance. And it's just only getting smaller and smaller. And I just kind of worry what's going to happen down the road with that. I hope that we rebound, but it's kind of tough to say.
Yeah, I fully agree with what you're saying. I got into full-time writing about 13 years ago. I was doing it just for fun for about 2 years before that. But at the time, it was like if you wanted to have a YouTube channel and you're willing to put the work in and really do everything right, you're going to succeed. And there was even up here, there was like a half dozen big sites you could write for. And now it's like you could be the best YouTuber in the world, but if you don't find that right algorithm and the right audience, you're going to get nothing. And there's just a handful of sites left that regularly post content, and in the US I know it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's really tough. It's like you look at like I'll go to the magazine rack at my local bookstore from time to time, and I'll just look at like the amount of auto magazines. It's like, man, there used to be a lot more a few years ago, and it's like it's slowly dwindling. It's tough to see. It's tough to see that.
And the ones that are left, they publish a lot less frequently, and it's a different time. I think everybody's trying to figure out whatever their business model will be, and us enthusiasts are trying to figure out, well, hey, we just want to read about cars and watch videos of cars.
Mm-hmm.
To your point, William, that's sort of my hope too. Is as unfortunate as with all this, like downsizing in turn. Hopefully there's enough people out there that still want to watch videos and read, that the ones that survived, like us, will still have an audience. Like I think there is still an audience. It's just maybe 10 years ago in the height of the Top Gears and whatnot, more casual people were interested, and now it's back to sort of just the car people that are interested.
Mm-hmm. I also just think that the landscape has changed too. Like you and Greg had mentioned, like YouTube and Instagram and TikTok, those are kind of like where I think the eyeballs are going to right now. And as someone who is versed in writing, but also has experience in video, it's kind of hard to transition to that. If you can do it, great. If you can't, you're kind of stuck, and you're not sure what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and now this day and age, you have to go all in too if you're gonna do video. Like we do both. And back in the day, we had crazy traffic on our YouTube channel because we were one of the only ones, and we were really invested in it. But now there's many channels out there, and they're all specialized, so it's hard to be sort of a general channel.
It's like everybody's tripping on everybody else, and it's just like, well, how do you stand out?
Yeah. So to your point, the social videos is sort of what people I think are taking in more regularly, and although that's not a sustainable business, it's still something that gets eyeballs on your content. So switching to cheerier topics.
Sorry for bringing it down.
No, it's true. I mean, that's the industry, right? It's like I said, hopefully we've hit or we're very close to bottom and we start bouncing up. So you mentioned your Grand Prix and your Volvo. What's your favorite car you've ever owned?
Funnily enough, I don't think I have a favorite car yet. Still, I've
Mhm.
only owned 4 cars throughout my driving age, and my current car, which is a 2011 Ford Fusion. I actually had an older Ford Fusion before that. Um, I like right now. I'm just like it has like close to 250,000 miles on it. I'm just like, just trying to keep it together while I try to figure out, well, what's going to be the replacement for that.
Mhm.
Um, for me, it's more just like, can I just keep these cars going till I can get to the next one? So I don't have a favorite one yet that I've owned.
It's a
So
tough time to buy a car. If you're looking to think, hey, this would be the great time to get like something fun, like a Bronco or a Wrangler or
Hmm.
Forerunner or whatever, piques
Yeah,
your interest.
yeah, it's funny. I have a younger brother who is like, talking to me about, hey, I'm thinking about getting a new car and stuff. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that right now?
Yeah.
yeah,
You might want to just hold off just a little bit.
I was like the used market was so crazy for so long, and it started to kind of get back closer to normal. We weren't quite there, and now it's with all the uncertainty with new cars, the used car market's starting to take off again. And those of
Hmm.
us who want to buy just fun junkers,
Yeah,
it's affecting that too because
yeah.
where did my $5,000 cars go? They're like 12
E-
now, and they're not worth
Exactly.
it.
It's like where did all the where did all the fun stuff go? Where is everything?
So I will skip the next question we usually ask is which car is the one that got away because you don't even really have a favorite yet and you haven't had
Yep.
that many. So what is the car you wish to own? You can go as elaborate as you want, or you can do something that maybe realistically one day.
Um, Man, this is tough because it's like it changes for me every day. Like one day I could be like, I really would like a Honda Civic hatchback, because there's the hybrid, be really nice and good on fuel. The next day I'm like, what'd be really awesome? A Lexus. I want one of those LSs, with the with the V8 and just go cruising around. Um, but my current dream car right now is I've always I should say I've always wanted uh, a late 80s or early 90s Ram 150 truck. And a lot of that is just because that is what my grandfather owned. He had a he had a late 80s Ram 150 custom, and it was a pretty much a work truck. It had mismatched body panels. The bed was like dirty and rusty and stuff, but that truck just charmed me. And it's when I was like 5 or 6, and just going for the rides and rolling the windows down with the manual crank and stuff, and just listening to the buzzer. You open the door and close. That car just like it somehow just left an imprint on me, and I always like I'm always on the lookout for one of those just to be like just one day just to like just to relive those memories of that.
Sounds like a true Michigan special there with the rust and the mismatched
Yeah,
panels. And
it's pretty much like what you kind of expect. It's just I'm hoping to find one that doesn't have like acreage of rust.
you have to probably go down
That,
south and bring one up.
that could be
So that's
tough.
yeah, that's like
Yeah.
the last of the square bodies, right? Because in
Hmm.
'94 it went into mini big rig. It's funny you bring that vehicle specifically because that's the thing with most of us is we have like the fun, nice cars or the cars we always aspire. Like I want to have a Corvette one day, for instance.
Right.
But there's always a car that all of us want that is more nostalgia than anything, and it's
Hmm.
not a good car. Like my first car was a manual Alero Coupe, and if I ever stumbled on one again, I'd buy it in a second.
Hmm.
It wasn't a good car, but it's just I had so much fun with like my friends and going to the drag strip and running 15-second quarter miles, which I thought were blistering back then. And
In an Alero Coupe, that's not terrible. I mean,
with the
that's
manual, that's why I still have the picture there. And I mean, the car I really want back is an SVX, but
Hmm.
fair enough. Yeah.
that's more of a want to. I wish I never sold mine, and I want to keep that long
Right.
term.
Hmm.
But yeah, there's all like that's why I think back in the day the muscle cars were so popular. Everyone was trying to relive their youth, and people were buying regular ones. And now with our generation, everyone's buying like
Yeah.
Renault or not Renaults, K cars and Cavaliers, and
Yeah, we're all getting the cars that's like, people would just be like, "Wait, why do you want that?" It's like because I remember it. It's memorable. Like I I'm the person that will like stop if I see like something like out of place. Like few months ago, I came across a citation. I'm just like, holy crap! How is this still running?
We just this morning I was walking my dog with my wife, and we walked by a neighbor's house that I've never seen this before, but they have probably a 94, 95 beige Corolla. And
Right.
it's in
Oh, yeah.
amazing condition, which
Yeah.
here, like with our salt and stuff, it can't be a local car originally, but I was just like, last time I saw one of these, and it was even the special one that had the gold lettering. It got all the gold
Right.
trim.
God, I remember that was such a big thing years ago. Oh,
There's a guy at a local Cars and Coffee that has a Chrysler, I think it's a Fifth Avenue, with the gold lettering, and it is mint. I mean, everything about this car, like it can't be like a local car. Although on the other hand, where else would you find such a car like this, right?
exactly.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
I don't think many people in Miami were buying that car.
Yeah, I'm always like really happy when I see like the cars that nobody really expects, to see in like really great conditions, like the Fifth Avenues, like the Corollas, like anything from like the early to like mid '90s, even the late '80s. There's just something that just warms my heart. There's just like, hey, this car survived somehow. We're lucky that this is still here.
Yeah,
I like
well, like I
Survivor
said,
cars.
it's the ones we grew up just. A neighbor had one, a friend had one, or we saw them driving. I thought they're cool. Like not too long ago, I saw a Riviera, like the very last gen,
Yeah.
and I was like, it looks kind of ordinary-ish now, but I remember when it came out, like that thing was crazy looking, how round and
Yeah.
And I mean, I have another silhouette back here. I have a soft spot for the original Aurora for life because
Oh yeah.
that thing was just so cool. I mean, the engine was so unreliable and it wasn't a great car, but
No,
was
but
just so cool.
you could consider what GM at the time, like you go back to like the 80s and it's just like, the copy machine design just slapped with different badges. And then you go, a decade later and like, here's the Riviera, here's the Aurora. It's just like, wait, this is not the same company, is it? This can't be.
The classic GM too little too late, but
Yeah, exactly. Something it's funny, like when I remember doing a lot of coverage of GM and even reviewing them, and it's just like, oh, you are so close, but yet you fumbled it.
Yeah. Well, you could go on for an hour with cars that they nailed, then they killed it. Like
Exactly.
I mean, Oldsmobile is a brand. When they killed it, minus some of their rebadged vans and SUVs, their lineup of cars looked great and they were competitive, but the damage was done and no one was going to buy one. And yeah, the nameplate was done, but it's too bad.
I don't know. I could see a world where Oldsmobile or Pontiac came back. Like maybe that's too much of the Midwestern voice in me, but I just feel like I mean, like you talk about like, what are people who are roughly our age looking for? Stuff from the 80s and 90s right now because they have disposable income. And if it's like, hey, you had a new Pontiac or a new Oldsmobile, that could play okay. The brands have been gone enough that who knows? Maybe the taintedness has gone away. I mean, we have the Hummer is back, so who knows?
Yeah.
I was gonna say I could see Pontiac's a hard brand to put somewhere, but like as a trim or as a model. But maybe you could put, I don't know how you put an Oldsmobile into a Buick, but maybe you could like use some of their old legacy names like 98 or something into a Buick. But I mean, if there's a GMC Hummer, I guess there could be a Chevy Pontiac something.
That sounds even weirder when you say it out loud.
Yeah. Yes. Introducing the Chevrolet Grand Am. What?
Yeah, well, stranger things have happened with the old rebadge days, Chevrolet Foresters and Indy, I think it was, and all sorts of crazy things. So before we let you go, the one question that I've been wanting to ask is, how hard is it for you to look at not even fellow writers but just people publishing car stuff, and you're looking at the specs, and you're like, oh, they got it all wrong. This is like your life right now.
It can be hard. But it's funny. I was talking with someone about this yesterday on Blue Sky, where they were complaining about, man, it's hard to find specific specs. And I'm like, dude, that's my day job every day, where I have to like, you have to look in like 17 different places to find like that one piece of information. And sometimes you just can't find it. And it's just like, man, where is it? And it's even tougher when you have to explain to someone like, yeah, we can't find that bits of information. It's even funnier when you have to tell said person, yeah, for that one company you work for, yeah, we can't find that. Do you know what it is exactly?
Yeah. No,
That's
I mean, our jobs aren't as dependent. I mean, we should be accurate, but like that's your full job. But the amount of times we're
yeah.
trying to figure out something on a vehicle, I mean, the GM big EV trucks are crazy because they won't give us specific numbers. And you look at the
Oh
door
yeah.
panels for the sticker, they're not always the same.
Yeah,
as
no,
what
it's
you
it's
heard.
funny. I actually work like one of the vehicles I work on is like the Silverado EV, and it's always fun to just be like, okay, how much information can I get out of it this year? Can I get a little bit further than I did last year?
My goal is to one day find out how much horsepower it makes when it's not in full RST wow mode, because they never tell you. It's like 700 in this, but because I've driven it twice now, and there's a big difference. But just tell us, is it 500? Is it 450? But
Yeah,
we'll
that's so funny you bring it up, and that really speaks to how like I think important your job is, William. Like I was on the launch of the Silverado EV in I think Milford, and all the journalists are like, so well, what's the horsepower right now? Well, we're not. He's like, this is what it is in wow mode. Okay, so when I'm not doing straight up drag strip like burnouts, because that's the only thing I'll be doing apparently. What is it? So
Right.
you got to have that kind of watchdog element,
Yeah, and it's frustrating, especially now with as more and more EVs come out. You have to try to figure out, okay, how long does it take to charge? What's the range? And it's tough to to figure that stuff out, because it's like, well, here's what it's like at 240 volts when you're fast charging. I like, okay, but I need it for level 1. I need to know what it's like if I just plug in a charger into like a wall outlet. How long is that going to take? They don't know. They don't tell us, and I can't tell anyone else that. And it's just gotten more and more frustrating as the years have gone on, because it's like you hope that there's always that information out there, and you can sometimes find it. You just find it in odd places you don't normally expect, or other times you don't have it at all, and you have to be like, okay, I'm gonna have to just leave this blank, and then hopefully it comes out sooner or later.
I'm so happy you brought up the wall charger, because that's my only means right now. I'm getting a stage 2 soon, but yeah, like people just assume every car can charge at max out of the wall, and it's all the same, and it's based on the onboard charger. Like the Buzz, for instance, I couldn't believe how much it pulls out of just a regular old wall socket because of its big charger on board. So
right, yeah, I've actually have blown a fuse a couple times just because of I underestimated. Oops, yeah, that's pulling more power than I expected. Let me go turn the breaker back on and try this again.
My garage is somehow connected to my bedroom, so it's like if a hair dryer or a razor or anything is being used, it blows the circuit. So yeah, that's why I need to get a charger. But that's a very sort of privileged problem to have with all these fancy new cars I get. Well, we'll let you go and get back to digging through specs and harassing OEMs to give you the proper numbers.
Thank you. I'm going to need all the luck I can get.
But thanks a lot for joining us, and we'll have you on again sometime. It was
great thank you. Yeah, no, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Joining us once again, we have Colum Wood to talk F1. It's a busy week in a pretty interesting year.
Yeah, motorsports is kind of wild this weekend, because I guess we've got F1, we've got 24 Hours of Le Mans, and I guess we've got NASCAR in Mexico, which is I've also been following that. I'm not a huge NASCAR fan, but just there's a lot of shenanigans around it, which I don't know if you've kept up on. It's crazy to watch. Like they had this convoy going to Mexico from like the U.S. border, and they had these like crazy armed guards with them, and it feel like there's a whole bunch of planes that like never made it to Mexico, and the guys are still not there. And so there's a whole bunch of like Haas team members that are like currently on a bus driving to Atlanta to try and get another plane, and it sounds like a bit of a logistical nightmare. So,
and it's weird because I don't know if this is. I think this is the first time the Cup's been there, but
yeah,
the feeder series. I don't know what they call it now. It used to be called. I don't know. I don't even know what it's called now. But they've been going there for years. So like, why is this such a surprise? It's just different people, but same idea. So
yeah, somehow it got really confusing. But yeah, it looks. I may actually check it out because they're racing at the same track. The Autodromo Hernandez. I can't remember the name, but the same track that the F1 guys do. So I'm sure a slightly different layout, but could be pretty cool.
No, it's always been the sprints or no sprint. The Cup's a big one. Whatever. The other series, it's always been entertaining there. I've watched it before, and it's interesting. But maybe they're having more logistical trouble this year because I don't know, some sort of tension between the two countries. I understand.
Whatever could you mean?
All right. Well, moving back to Formula One, let's get going. So first story.
Here's our calendar. Yes, we've got all the dates for next year, which I normally don't really care about and isn't really worth talking about a whole lot unless there's some massive change. The big change, I guess, is that they have now put the Canadian Grand Prix on the same day as the Indy 500, which has got a lot of people talking and excited. It's funny because actually, generally, historically, it's been on the same day. The Indy 500 has been on the same day as the Monaco race. But that didn't matter because the Monaco race was in Monaco 6 hours, 7 hours over earlier. So it was over long before the Indy 500 was around. So it just wasn't a big issue. So I think it's people are like, basically saying, oh, they're trying to like be a rival and etc. The only thing I can think is that generally F1 races are like almost always at 2 local time, and the Indy starts at like I think 3 somewhere around there. So like unless somebody changes, they are definitely going to overlap. So
I got 3 things to say about this. One is people are making a big deal about this, but we just mentioned it. This week, Le Mans and F1 are the same weekend. F1 doesn't really care who they race against, and I know Le Mans is a 24-hour race, but it ends at 4, I believe, Sunday, and this race will have started by then, so they will overlap. A lot of people are freaking out, but some hard truth is, do people outside of North America care that much about the Indy 500 anymore? I mean, obviously there's some fans, but I don't, except for us in Canada and the US, I don't think there's as much crossover as people wishes there was. I think.
So I agree, but I also think that F1 seems to care a whole lot about the US right now. So that, but again, they probably, it's not like they put it up against the Miami Grand Prix. They put it up at the Canadian. Like the Americans are kind of like, Canada, whatever.
No,
right?
You're probably right. And there's also I don't know if it's still called the Coca-Cola 600, but the Charlotte race is always that
same weekend
evening. It's like because there used to be guys who do both. They'd fly from Indy and straight into NASCAR. So if this race is later, it dips into that, which is probably safer because I really don't think there's too many NASCAR Formula One crossover fans, except for like car nuts like us.
Exactly. So, 6 journalists who care.
Yeah. I don't think, and you're right, like the Americans might not care about the Canadian Grand Prix, but there'll be some conflict, but I don't think it's this big deal outside of us sort of centralized here. I think in Europe, they're like, oh, whatever. Like,
that's kind of irrelevant. So
there's fans. There's like, we're fans of some European series, but it's not like, I think, 50 years ago where the best of the best and even F1 drivers would go compete stuff. So
correct. Yeah, it's not that.
What's more interesting is they're trying to race in Montreal in May. Like it literally could be below freezing that day. I've been there in June and it's like been just above freezing and raining. So it's a bold move to try to, I know it's May and you're like, oh, it's got to be summer, but as we live in the Toronto area, the weather's very unpredictable in May. Yeah,
well, they normally race. It's like the first-ish weekend of June. That's
no, it's always Father's Day.
Okay. Yeah, and it's often pretty terrible. Like there are races where it is wet and it is chilly. Like it's not minuses, but it's not pleasant. And you're right. Like moving it back to May could get pretty damn cold. So I can't
There's
say.
A reason the 24-hour Nurburgring moved away from May because they're in a very similar climate.
Yeah, when they get all the hail, exactly. Yeah, not
fog
fun.
and cold. I was at the Montreal race 4 years ago with my son, and I remember Saturday it poured and was like in the single digit Celsius, so we're talking maybe around 40 Fahrenheit, and we were freezing and trying to keep dry. And then that's when Alonso, I think, got pole or second, like because he's so good at the rain. And then the next day it was sunny, but it wasn't like hot. It was just nice.
Yeah,
so
tolerable.
Yeah, I know they moved it back so they have more regional races together. So like you just go from Miami up to Canada, and then when you're in Monaco, you just have to go over to Spain and Austria. So I get it. Like it totally logistically. It's just I think it's one of those, they are concerned about their series and their map, and then unfortunate consequences like, oh, it's on the same day. But
Yeah, and they'll do it unless something, if there was actually snow for some freak reason, they'd probably change the calendar in the future, being like, oh, it's like when they didn't think about the Vegas race. They're like, oh, Vegas in like at the end of the season, like, yeah, it's kind of freaking cold at night in Vegas in November. Like I've been there a lot of times, and it's not. Yeah, you're thinking, I really wish I brought a jacket. There's no lounging around the pool in Vegas in November. That's for sure.
I can't see it's too small. What is Vegas this year? Is that October?
It says November, 19th, 20th.
So they're still doing it. Yeah, and I mean, part of it too could be maybe they're like Monaco and Indy 500. That's Monaco. As much as we hate the racing, it's still their marquee race. So maybe they wanted to move it off the same weekend and give it a little more individual exposure, and us Canadians take the brunt. But I mean, the Canadian Grand Prix is usually one of the most entertaining because the weather's unpredictable. Maybe that's why they moved it to May. They're like, hey, let's make it unpredictable always.
Yeah, I guarantee it'll always be. But you're right. It's generally always a great race because it's get a little rain and either in qualifying race, etc. So I'm excited for it.
It's like Spa, right? You can only guarantee that something's going to happen. You can't guarantee. So
there you go.
So moving on to a giant driving in the car.
So this is there's a story here. Is that so? The story I was going to talk about is that Cadillac apparently the short list. It's sort of been discussed. The short list for their drivers are apparently Bottas and Perez. They're sort of the two front runners, which makes a ton of sense and actually be very interesting. It could be a good combo. So I asked Google Gemini if they could create them together and in a Cadillac, racing. And this is what we got. And unfortunately for anybody listening on the audio, it's like these are people like growing out of the cars and they're like sitting on like the rear spoilers or on the side pods. It's a total mess of a photo. It's exactly what like old bad AI photos were like, and somehow I guess Google Gemini still does those. So
it's two guys, one car racing together. But like you said, the lineup makes total sense because Cadillac is not competing next year, and probably not till maybe the year before they get their engine, 3 years from now, or the year they get their engine. So this lineup, yeah, like you said, you got a real veteran in Bottas who can help you develop the car and still be competitive. And then Perez, who I don't think ever really got a fair shake. He's not that old, so he could become your veteran in a couple of years when you bring up whatever, super rookie or whatever. So, and they understand the tracks and the cars, so you're not trying to develop a driver and a car at the same time. So,
yeah.
And speaking of Cadillac, by the time this is over, I could be completely wrong or completely vindicated, but 1-2 in Le Mans. Whoever saw that coming?
Yeah.
I don't know if it was with you or with Kyle. I was talking about how Cadillac at Le Mans is always terrible, and my theory's always been because GM funnels to Chevy. Well, this year the Chevy money, it looks like it all finally went to Cadillac, probably because they needed them to look good before F1. But
yes,
if Cadillac won when you're listening to this, as I'm in advance, that'd be awesome. I've always rooted for them, and it'd just be cool to see someone that isn't Porsche, Toyota, like the same old people always up there.
Yeah. See, I actually would cheer for Toyota if Toyota's competing with other legit. Like I like Toyota in that sense. I don't care. I don't cheer for Toyota when like Toyota was like basically the only brand, and you're like, well, what's to cheer for, right? It's kind of like, like you like to see. I'm pro Toyota. I'd love to see Toyota win here against like all the odds. That'd be wild. But Cadillac. For sure. That'd be
Toyota in qualifying was surprisingly uncompetitive because usually they're right up there fighting with Porsche, but the race is a completely different world. So,
it is.
Yeah. People could listen to this and be like, these guys are idiots. Toyota won and Porsche was right behind them. Kind of like both broke down. They didn't even finish. So who knows?
Yeah, it could happen. Speaking about Le Mans, so I was just going to mention quickly. This is funny. The overlap. We're talking about how they kind of, in one sense, don't overlap, but all the other ways they do. Le Mans has become the place that retired Formula One drivers go. So I don't know if you've seen this. Guess how many former F1 drivers are racing at Le Mans this weekend?
I will say 10.
19.
I knew it'd be big because pretty much. That's what they say. If you make F1, people are like, oh, this like I'm not saying he is, but Sargent or Latifi, like, oh, they're terrible at F1 or they aren't great drivers. It's like, no, they made F1 because they're good, and now because it's on their resume, they can go race wherever they want because people will take them in a heartbeat because it's also marketing for your team, right?
It is, and a lot of these guys too. Like it's true. Like, it's not to crap on Le Mans by any means, but you don't have necessarily the skill at F1 anymore, right? It's sort of like a retirement project, which sounds mean, but like, so I was looking at the list. It's like Kobayashi, Nick DeVries, Jensen Button, Kevin Magnussen, Buemi, Brendan Hartley, Mick Schumacher, Sebastian Bourdais, Antonio Giovinazzi, relatively recent Kubica, Paul di Resta, Jean-Eric Verne, who raced for Red Bull for a while, Stoffel Van Dorn, and then a notable, also interesting story, a little piece of trivia is Rubens Barrichello's son is racing there. Eduardo, I think his name is. Yeah, so I thought that was really interesting. That, yeah.
Well, to your point, yeah, it's not like these aren't like Le Mans a bad feeder series. Like they're good cars, but they are slower, and the physical strain on the drivers isn't as much. So you could be older or not quite there, and whereas F1 is like you need to just repetitively hit your marks, and that's it for the race, and that'll make you win. Here, you need to do that, but you're also racing tons of cars. So someone with the skill to be able to race can get in one of these cars and off they go. Especially if you're, well, it doesn't matter what series you're in. Either you're darting in between the slower cars and trying to not hit them, or you're the slower car trying not to get hit by someone darting around you. So
yeah, I don't know what's worse. I mean,
Yeah.
probably being the slower car is worse. Just yeah, I don't like the feeling of that at all. That would be weird.
So this is a race I've never been to. One day I'll go, and watching is getting harder and harder. I used to like when I could just put it on TV, but now I need to sign up for streaming services.
I know. Although actually, so I was looking. I have to check. I feel like the FIA WC app in Canada, you could actually watch without. You need a membership, but you don't. It's not a paid membership, so I have to double check on that. So I was actually this summer with my family to Paris, and then we drove out to like the sea for a day, the ocean for one day to do something else, and then on the way back we drove through Le Mans and dropped in at the museum, took a million photos of like every car that's there, and got to see sort of like the grandstands, etc. So it was very cool to check that place out. So I've been to the location, but yes, like you, not the race, definitely on the bucket list.
Too bad it's not like way back in the day where you could actually drive on it because they're public roads outside of racing days, but those days are long gone.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for joining us. Next week, we will be back to talk fallout from Canadian Grand Prix, maybe Le Mans, and get ready for the next race and talk again probably about how McLaren still don't seem slow.
Yeah, exactly. All right, have a great week, Mike.
You too.
Bye.
Okay, just before we end the Auto Guide show brought to you by eBay Motors, we'll just wrap it up by taking a look at what we've done this week and what's coming up. So I'll just go real quick. This week, we mentioned it last week, we have M cars. I have an M3 that is in the absolute world's best spec. I won't talk much more about it till our review comes out, but I am not a stereotypical BMW guy at all, but I love this M3. What about you?
I'm so happy to hear that because I liked it a lot too when I drove it late last year. I have the M2, the slightly smaller but just as heavy little brother with the same horsepower, also a manual, so it's going to be a fun comparison. And I just got back from driving it up to the Muskoka region, which is a very nice area just north of Toronto, to drive the 2025 Ford Expedition, including the Expedition Tremor, which has something like nearly 11 inches of ground clearance, 33s. But yeah, the whole thing is redone, just like the Navigator sibling for this year. And so I will talk about it in more detail next week when the review is live.
Yeah, speaking of next week, you and I are doing another comparison. We will have a Jeep Wrangler. It is, I believe, the Willys, the special one for this year, and the all-new Toyota 4Runner. So not direct competitors, but they're two nameplates you see on the trails a lot, and they both have their rabid fans. So it's sort of like where do they line up in this modern day? We're going to do some mild off-roading. We're not going to go hardcore. The 4Runner we have isn't the super off-road one, but it's just sort of, like I said, just see how they are. Like the Wrangler we know is a little more utilitarian, but maybe it's not as out there as we thought now that the 4Runner is still a truck, but kind of grown up. So we'll see.
Yeah, should be interesting.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps up another episode. We'll be back, as I said, next week. We have some pretty cool reviews and stories next week, so I'm looking forward to it. We have another compact car comparison, a Lamborghini, and a whole bunch of other stuff, and that Corvette news. We'll see if we were totally off base, but
Yeah.
Until then, we will see you next week.
So long, everybody.
Picture this. You're halfway through a DIY car fix, tools scattered everywhere, and boom, you realize you're missing a part. It's okay, because you know whatever it is, it's on eBay. They've got everything: brakes, headlights, cold air intakes, whatever you need, and it's guaranteed to fit, which means no more crossing your fingers and hoping you ordered the right thing. All the parts you need, at the prices you'll love, guaranteed fit every time. eBay, things people love.